what the hell is going on with Lorde and her incest obsession. As long as we're talking about what is and isn't an alt-right pipeline and the normalization of fascism and white supremacy in the culture. So apparently Lorde told New York Magazine that she loved the incest storyline in season 3 of White Lotus. I was like, you guys are all prudes. Come on, let's go for it. Bring the teeth, freak us out, Mike White. And this has apparently kicked off, I don't twit, but people send me tweets. So this has kicked off discourse on Twitter about how, like, being into incest and the kind of normalization of incest storylines in the culture is an indication of ascendant fascism. So it's not even necessarily that TV shows or movies are having plot lines that are glorifying incest, right? Maybe they're like trying to do a Nabokov and exploring the abuse and harm and trauma that is incest. The problem is when you have people like Lorde being basically fetishizing it, being like, yeah, get your freak on, basically viewing the discussion of incest as like... Right, so the Twitter discourse is saying the incest craze is an indicator of rising fascism, but you bitches refuse to understand that, I fear. And the pushback that we see from people is like, oh yes, fascism, famous for loving the exploration of transgressive and taboo themes in art, right? So the false counterclaim is that, oh, y'all are the actual fascists because you don't want people discussing this. No, what we don't want is people normalizing abuse as like their AO3 kink subplot to their whatever. And I think we should talk about the normalization of incest in the culture. We should talk about it as like, why is it that we are deeming this an acceptable fetish or whatever? It's the argument that we're seeing online is like, oh, you were trying to suppress queer discourse when the vast majority of incest victims are in heterosexual, there's a heterosexual dynamic to it, right? Their abuser is of the opposite sex. The other completely fallacious talking point that we're seeing pushed in online discourse is that if you are opposed to the normalization of incest, that you are pushing purity culture. When in fact, normalizing incest is purity culture itself. Like that is the purity culture. That is what is pushing fascism. It's not purity culture. It's not trying to control people to say, hey, actually, this form of abuse is not your kink. This form of abuse should not be normalized. Incest is always going to come back to narratives that fascists, white supremacists use about racial purity. It's something that we see time and time again across history. Those in the ruling class talk about blood purity. That's why they engage in a lot of very much culturally sanctioned incest, right? A lot of the aristocracy, a lot of the nobility, they engage in like siblings marrying or the uncle marrying his niece. It's not just confined to like the monarchy or some point in the past. Purity culture being tied to incest is something that we see very prominent in white evangelical America. And that's not anything new. It's this like daddy-daughter culture. It's the true love waits culture. It's the purity rings that dads give their daughters. And the fact that they have like daddy-daughter, basically like dances and marriage and all of that is really, really incestuous and gross, but it's very, very normalized in white Christian nationalist culture in this country, in evangelical America. It's been normalized for 30 years at least. So anyway, I didn't mean to get on a tangent about that, but there are so many things in this country right now that function as alt-right pipelines, that function as ways to normalize fascism. And you think that they're just some trend in the culture? Who's driving those cultural trends? Who benefits from those trends? I'm really, really, really skeeved out to see prominent like celebrities wanting to normalize incest as like a fetish or like get your freak on, and this is something that we should all enjoy and talk about when it's a form of abuse and it is something that benefits fascism. Oh yeah, and let's not forget all of the creepy shit Donald Trump has said about his own daughters over the years, including when they were babies and small children, right? Like I have whole videos on that subject, all of the creepy incestuous shit Donald Trump has said about his own daughters. If you don't understand how this trend, whatever your incestuous AO3 plotlines, whatever the incestuous shit on, Pornhub is, if you don't understand and trying to normalize that in the culture is driving white supremacy, is driving fascism, yeah, take a little time. Maybe I was gonna say dig into that, but don't go Googling that. Don't go searching that up on the internet, but maybe spend a little time self-reflecting about why it is that abuse is being normalized in American society.